Kia ora, I'm Paul Sinclair, co-founder of OFNZ, and welcome to Kiwi Fleas. Each episode I catch up with one of the million or so Kiwis who've exported themselves out of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and these people to me are like a million sentient billboards, helping one way or another to shape the world's opinion of us. Whether you see that as a brain drain or a potential brain gain waiting to be tapped is one question I hope to uncover, one unique New Zealander story at a time. My guest today once told her mum not to bother planning her 21st as she'd be in London. She was 9 years old at the time, and whether prescient or precocious or both, she was right. She was Elizabeth Taylor's double in a film called The Mirror Cracked and got her first big UK break playing Rupert in The Rupert Bear Show. She's worked as an actor, singer, director, drama teacher in professional theatre in Britain and New Zealand for more than 30 years, taking lead roles in the original London productions of The Rocky Horror Show in Chicago, starring in Shirley Valentine, one of my favourites. It was my first date with my now wife, Mortimer's Patch, Worzel Gummidge, with Mr. Pertwee no less, and Piaf. She received an Order of Merit for services to theatre in 2004 and has lived in Britain since 2009, but is returning to New Zealand in November to perform her London sellout solo show, Life on a Loop. This will be Ellie Smith's first appearance on a New Zealand stage in 17 years. Ellie, welcome and thank you for joining me on Kiwi Fleas.
Thank you. That was such a nice introduction. And I was listening to all the parts you were listing and thinking, they're all short people. I just realised everyone I've played is a short person. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Lucky old me.
Yeah, lucky old you. And look, when I first wrote that, I don't know if you'd call it a citation, it ended up taking about 40 minutes, and I realised we'd only have about 3 minutes to actually talk about stuff. So you've done quite a lot, haven't you?
I have, I suppose. Yeah, I've been really lucky. Yeah.
Before we get onto your luck, I'd like to kick this off with a bit of a warm-up question, which is not really sort of just on topic in terms of talking about what you've been doing since leaving New Zealand in 2009. But I'd like you to cast your mind back to, I can't remember who told me to do this. Some great facilitator taught me this technique years ago, an interviewer. Cast your mind back to when you were living in New Zealand, if you can, and remember the moment that you laughed harder than you've ever laughed before. And I want to know where you were, who you were with, and what were you up to?
Oh, wow. Okay, when you ask me that, I think of so many times I have laughed in the theatre or on stage, actually, sometimes, which is, of course, not allowed really. But there's stories that would be too long to tell. So the time I think my darling late mother and I were helpless with laughter. We were sitting at home having a cup of tea, and my dad had been somewhere, and he walked in, and Mum said, "Oh, okay," and he said, "Yeah." He said, "I just bumped into Bob on the corner. I was chatting, and he was telling me how he went to the butchers' convention, big gathering of butchers last night, and he said it went really well, and he had to give a talk." And he said before he gave the talk, he said, "Oh, I better, introduce my wife." So he said, "Hi, everyone, meet Patty." And that was, it is so pathetic. Well, my mother and I it was so childish, and my father told really good stories. He just said it like it was an absolute fact, and we were really in with this.
That's a cracker.
Yeah, silly, but it was just the moment, and my lovely mum, who didn't tell stories, was, she just crying, laughing at the stupidity. So that's my story.
It's a lovely story.
There you were.
It's a lovely story. How old would you have been at the time?
About 50. No, I I was probably in my 30s.
Oh,
And
nice.
I mean, it's just a silly story, but I thought of it during the week, and I thought that is the funniest thing,
That's sweet.
silliest thing.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to use that, actually. If my wife doesn't listen to this, I'm going to introduce a meat patty into the discussion at some point. See whether she gets it. Thank you. Hey, look, obviously Kiwi Fleas is, as I said, more about what you've been up to since leaving NZ, but I am interested to ask you one more historical question, if I may. And that is, I'd like you to remember what you were doing on the night of the 30th of April, 1982. I don't know if it helps. It was a Friday. We're talking 43 years ago, so it may not be too fresh. And not only not only just what you were doing, but more importantly than that, who you met that evening for the first time.
1982. Oh my gosh, you've got me. Hang on, I was in New Zealand, and who did I meet for the first time? April 82. I would have been doing Piaf or Shirley Valentine? I probably met you.
Oh, you're good. You just smashed me out of the park. So you were performing in Piaf, as directed, I think, by Philip Mann.
Philip Mann, yeah,
Wonderful
late Philip
production.
Mann.
Now, it was at the Hannah Playhouse, wasn't it, in Wellington? And you were playing Piaf, and you sang, among other things, her signature song. Do you remember the name of it?
La vie en rose.
Non, je ne regrette.
Oh, non, je ne regrette, yes.
My French is terrible. I was taught French by watching reruns of Allo Allo, so I sort of speak like, I was the French bombs the train. But the English for that is no, I regret nothing, right? The translation. And you sang that song like a French angel. And what I'm just really curious about is if you remember looking out into the audience as you sang it, because right up the back, seated between his parents, was this 14-year-old bogan in the audience. He had black jeans on. He had this black Judith Priest.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I saw him.
Black nomads, the black bomber jacket, the red pimples, the blonde mullet.
As opposed to a big fat sty on your eye, yeah.
Well, that was my first experience of professional theatre, Ellie Smith. That was the first time Mum and Dad had ever taken me to the theatre. Before that, it was all hut repertory and all amateur hour. Nothing wrong with hut rep, by the way. But that was my first experience of going to the theatre and seeing you on stage, obviously, for the first time of many. And I'll always claim that was the first time we met and I fell for theatre. And in a very marriage-limiting confession, I think I also fell for the star of the show.
Oh, isn't that just gorgeous? Well, I tell you what, I think that was a wonderful production to see as your first, because it had the most fabulous cast. I mean, myself excluded here. I'm not boasting. And Philip Mann, honestly, he just did the most beautiful production of that play. Just sensational.
I still remember it. I still remember your voice.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely effective.
It was really exciting. Janet Fisher, who sadly doesn't do theatre anymore, but she played Twan, Piaf's best friend, and it was just everything fitted. You know, it was the fabulous production.
Yeah, and then I had this odd moment some years later where I suddenly started imagining that I'd seen you in cabaret and started telling all of my friends that you were in cabaret. Whereas in fact that's complete delusion. You've never performed in cabaret.
I've never. And a woman I was talking to one night, I was in something else after a play, and this woman said to me, "Oh, and I loved you in cabaret." And I said, "Oh no, I've never been in cabaret." And she said, "Yes, you have." And I said, "No, I haven't." She said, "Yes, you have. I saw you." So I don't think you're wrong. I was in cabaret, apparently. Nowhere that I remember, but still I was in it, yeah.
You left New Zealand for the second time in 2009. Back in the day, John Key was Prime Minister then. A pound of butter cost just a smidge over $3.60. It's more than double that now. And people in those days still actually paid cash for things like coffee. You're now in London, but you didn't start in London, did you? Where did you first land when you left? Or where did you eventually land quite quickly after you left?
Oh, okay. Well, my daughter, of course, I came over with my daughter, who was 17 at the time, and I said, I want to live somewhere that's culturally different. You know, I've always lived in English-speaking countries, and I know, it's all very ordinary. And she had done Spanish at school and said, well, can we go to Spain? So we ended up, we knew no one. We went to Madrid, and I spent off and on 2 years there teaching English, and it was fabulous. I loved it. I loved that way of life. I made lots of friends there. I think the Spanish, this is a huge generalization. Well, this is a fact. They're very loud, but the generalization is that they seem to laugh more. They just laugh, and I love that about them. And they're not very good at obeying rules, which I really like as well. And I was teaching a lot of bankers. I worked for a company that had these huge contracts with BBVA and Santander. And so I was going to teach bankers privately a lot of the time in their office. And they really didn't want to learn. It was all being paid for. And sometimes often I'd turn up, and the secretary would say, oh, no, he's gone off to meet, Juan. And so I'd just go and have to fill in time drinking coffee. And one day I thought, this is boring. I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it. So I came back to England.
So how long were you in Spain? 2 years?
Yeah, off and on. I came back for a while, and then I went back again for another year.
So the move to England, you were over teaching Spanish bankers. Are Spanish bankers like bankers anywhere in the world, by the way? Because you said that the Spaniards laugh a lot and like to break rules, and I've never really met a banker anywhere on the planet that, one, laughs a lot and likes to break rules.
I think you're right. I think the bankers were the exception. Although we did used to go and do these residential courses for weekends in this fabulous place just north of Madrid, and there'd be about 50 students, all from the bank, but not all managers or anything. But and then there'd be half a dozen of us teachers, and we did have fun then. I mean, they were relaxed and fabulous.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But you head to England. You decide you had enough of Spain or enough of bankers, and you head to England. But you didn't. Again, I don't think you went directly to London, or you didn't stay in London if you landed there.
Yeah, no, I didn't, because I wanted to get myself a place of my own, and I couldn't afford London. I mean, it had just gone crazy. So I bought a place. I bought a little tiny flat in Brighton. I sold my house in New Zealand and bought a tiny flat right on the seafront in Brighton. Beautiful. Which was just fabulous. I mean, just beautiful.
I don't know Brighton. I've never been there. I follow the football club through my sons and watch a little bit of the scene of what's happening in Brighton. But tell me about Brighton. What you're doing there? What was it like?
Well, it's a university town. There's 2 universities there, so it's a very young town. And I think it's a bit run down now, but it's one of those old seaside towns that Queen Victoria used to visit. So there's the beautiful pavilion there. But I thought there would be a lot more arts there. And in fact, they have a festival once a year, an arts festival, which is fun. But there was really no theatre. It was music. It's a huge music scene.
Did not.
And for young people. So I found myself a little bit frustrated with that. I bought a little puppy, and I made lots of friends through the dogs on the lawn. There are more dogs in Brighton, I think, than just probably anywhere in the blooming world, really.
Oh my gosh. What does that do to the footpaths and the beaches?
I don't know why. It's just fantastic. And footpaths, are you talking about what?
I am.
The footpaths are very clean.
Are they? So they pick up after their dogs?
They do.
Unlike
They
in
do.
Paris, where they don't. It's like a dodgem walking along the street in Paris.
Apparently, yeah. No, Brighton's pretty good. The seafront has got lawns,
Right.
big, wide. They're called the lawns,
Right.
and the huge green right along for miles along the front. So you take your dog there. But anyway, back to back to. Sorry, I digress as usual. I just got. I was coming up to London so often to go to the theatre and racing for the last train home back to Brighton. And then my best friend there got cancer. And anyway, that was terribly sad. And when she went, I just sort of wondered why I was there anymore.
Right.
So I moved to London to be with my daughter.
So your daughter was living in London at this point and studying or working or both?
She was working. She was in the music industry.
Yeah. And
by then she'd met her partner, who she's still with, I'm very happy to say. He's absolutely divine. And we decided to buy a house together.
Nice.
So I live with them, but not with them. I live on top of the house.
You live on top of the house?
Well, inside, we made a little flat for me on the top floor. There's 3 floors, one of those Georgian houses.
Right.
And we live in Peckham, which is a pretty, we're on the wrong side of the tracks of Peckham, actually, because Peckham's become terribly trendy.
Perfect.
And we just love it. And so I'm on my little flat and they're downstairs with my grandson now, who is the joy of my life, and they're down there and I can lock the door.
What was it like? I was going to get onto your grandson. I'm really interested to hear. There's a big gap between Brighton and grandson, and we're going to try and cover some of that.
Oh, yes.
but
okay, bye, Paul. Thanks. Yeah. It's been lovely.
But I'm interested. I'd love to hear what was it like becoming a grandma? What was it like holding your grandchild and our grandchild in your hands for the first time?
Yeah. Well, everybody, when my daughter was pregnant, said you're just going to love this. It's going to be the best thing ever, and it almost is. I mean, I guess my daughter was the best thing ever for me.
100%.
But now my grandson he is a delight. Absolutely, 2 years old now, and talking nonstop.
Beautiful. I wonder where he gets that from. That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Let's taught him to talk. So
I love chatty kids.
So do I. So you live in the same house, obviously. Well, you live on top of the same house. How much time do you get to spend together? Are you with him every day?
I see him every single day, And he's just changed nurseries, which is a bit sad for me because I was having him 2 days a week for myself.
Nice.
But now he's at nursery a lot, so yeah. But I see him every single day. I wake up and he comes up to see me, and who could have a happier life?
You or him are you talking about when you say that, or both of you?
Me.
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I mean, it's a very special relationship, that one between a grandparent and a grandchild, isn't it?
Yeah.
How would you describe it? I mean, I don't want to go to the cliche of, it's lovely you have them and you can hand them back. We hear that all the time. But, I mean, what's it changed for you? Has it changed your perspective on anything at all?
Has it? That's a really interesting thing to ask me. I don't know. I think I'd already become less impatient. Impatience is my worst virtue, and I think as I've got older, I'm less impatient than I used to be. Much less. I suppose now, you have to listen. I mean, I really have to listen to him because to be there for whatever he needs. I think the thing is, that's different about having your own child is you feel it's a lot scarier because when I take him out, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted with worrying about him. Where is he? What does he need? Whereas with your own kids, you kind of think, cross the road or don't, I don't care. But when it's someone else's child, it's like really, really scary and wonderful.
What does a day out look like for you two?
We always go on the bus because he loves the bus. We get the bus right outside. And, I'm teaching him how to shop because his parents teach him museums and playgrounds and things like that. We go to John Lewis and I let him out of the pram and he can play with his cars on the floor, in and out of the thing. Yeah, I just teach him, what a shop looks like. He loves it. People stop to chat. And, it's good. And then we go somewhere and we have a little lunch and it's just fun. I love it.
Do you let him buy anything? I've never heard of anybody teaching anybody how to shop. I thought that sort of came naturally over time, but I love it. Do you give him like a pound or two to actually buy something to go through with a purchase at all, or is it all just pretend he shop?
No, I always buy him something because I just can't help it. He's really good though. Sometimes if he'll point at something he wants and I just say no because it'd be like really expensive, no. And he is good at just walking away. He doesn't throw tantrums yet.
He will. He might.
So I suppose that's a really terrible thing to say. I mean, that sounds like it's just such a materialistic
Not at all.
attitude, teaching him to shop. I don't mean that. I mean, we go up and down Oxford. I just like him to be among people and to, see life and what's going on.
Oh, no, I love hearing it.
No, he doesn't. I don't give him a credit card or anything.
Well, I actually really love that you take him out. I mean, he wouldn't be thinking of it as being taught to shop. He'd be thinking of it of having an adventure with you, right? Getting out there, public transport, buses, tubes, people, chaos, madness, London, everything that London is, right? And and he's got his grandmother there just looking after him, and he knows he's going to get something at some point. He's onto you. He's totally onto you.
Well, it's always something very little, I assure you, very, very little. Because I live on the pension, Paul.
Well, if I was your grandchild, I would be coming back to you at the age of 20 and saying, "Grandma, teach me how to shop."
Yeah, that's when it's going to be more fun for him, isn't it?
I want to flip back in time a little bit, Ellie. I want to go back to a big gap that happened between Brighton and you arriving and buying a house with your daughter in London and moving in. Because I understand that you did work in UK care homes for a couple of years, I think. Can you tell me about what you were doing?
Yeah. Well, because I didn't want to teach English anymore, my friend down there knew that I had been, in the theatre and that. And she said, you should go and entertain old people. Because I was like thinking, what the hell can I do? There must be, I didn't want to be retired. And so I thought, that's a good idea. So I just started writing to there's 100 care homes along the coast in Brighton. People do go down there to grow old, a lot of people. Especially like Worthing and Eastbourne is like really old. And so I just wrote and said, I'd like to come and entertain. Quite a lot of people do that. And so I got myself all technicaled up and went to my first home and I just loved it. I walked in and all these people staring at the television, not really watching it, but just staring, all faced the television. Yeah. And they set me up in the lounge and I just sang all the standards, the sort of Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland, all those old songs that they know. And I just loved it.
What did you see? What did you see? They're sitting there, because I've been to, my mother was in a rest home until she died last year, and I can picture exactly what you're looking at. I'm sure a lot of people listening can, particularly those who've got elderly parents. They do look kind of like automatons, mute, just there's nothing kind of there, but there is something there. So what would happen on a typical day when you would technical up and start singing?
Some of them would still stare at the television. I had, in one care home, I had this man who was reading his newspaper and he refused to put it down. I mean, he had it up in front, of his face, and he refused to look at me. He didn't like music, he told me one day. He didn't like any form of music. But most of them would start, this terrible old thing. Most of them would start humming along or in some of the care homes. In fact, one I went to was purely for dementia people, and in that home they used to dance all
lovely.
the time. They would dance, and I just loved it. And I would tell them stories, in between songs, silly stories, trying to make them laugh. Sometimes they didn't laugh. One good story, on Christmas morning, they had rung me a few days before, one home, and said, look, we're being let down. Would you come Christmas morning? It's quite hard to find someone. So my daughter was with me in Brighton. I said, well, why don't you come and sing with me? Because she's got a fabulous voice. And so we went along to the home. We dressed up. We wore our little sparkly things, lots of makeup, feeling really like we looked really lovely. And we got there, and I gave Maddie a mic, and I said, well, you start. We had all the Christmas songs ready. And she starts singing. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And this woman screamed, shut up, I can't stand it. Ooh, you've got a horrible voice. You're hurting my ears. And
What? How did you respond?
Maddie just looked at me like almost lip quivering, because she'd never had such a reaction to her voice. I just laughed, and I just said to this woman, oh, you've got a terrible voice. Don't be so rude. You've got a terrible voice. She didn't know, really, Anyway, we just kept going. We had to keep going. But I did get some reactions like that. Oh, I hate that song.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I mean, you do lose.
Yeah.
You see that, right? You lose those. The tolerances for what is, acceptable behaviour or not seem to disappear as you get older, and whatever you think can end up coming out.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought I looked nice that day. I'd really worn a very nice dress. And another woman, I don't know, Christmas just put them in a bad mood. And this woman, I turned around to do something. She said, oh, you shouldn't wear that dress. Your bum looks like a beach ball.
Oh, that sounds like my grandmother. That sounds exactly like something my grandmother would say at 85. What did you say?
There's no filters, are there?
There are no filters, although I think that story about the man who told you he hated music, he must be the only person in the world I've ever heard say that.
Yeah, he said any music. I said, and I kind of was trying to see him behind his paper, and I said, oh, but didn't you when you were young? No, like that.
Did you get fond? Did you get fond? My mother was a geriatric nurse and hit the final years of her nursing career, and she got very fond with her patients, and she would be very, very sad when they died. I'm interested to know whether you got attached to any of your audience.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh, yes. I had a couple of favourite homes, where I had special people there, and one home, they said it was I was the only person that this old Robert would come out of his room for. Oh. And he just didn't like people, really. He was over people, and he spent all his time in his room, but he came out every time I went there, and I adored him. And another man, he used to be an old jazzer, and he had owned a pub, and he loved jazz music, and he wore a hat like Acapulco. And he was in a wheelchair, but he wore that hat every day. And he would shout when I came down the corridor, here she is. And I'd say, what are we going to sing today, John? Oh, sing that one. You know that one. He used to sing it. You know that fella. He was in films with you remember, and it goes la da da da, and I said, John, you're just making it up. You don't know what you don't know what you're talking about. Your brain's gone, mate. Oh, I love it. And of course, then COVID hit, and we were entertainers. We couldn't go back.
No.
And so afterwards, when I was asked by a couple of them, would I go back? One, it was a bit far to go from London, but the other thing was I was terrified that the ones I loved the most had passed away during COVID, and I thought I couldn't bear it.
Well, some of them definitely would have, and it's one of the many little tragedies of COVID, and amongst a lot of bigger tragedies that entertainers weren't allowed and families weren't allowed, obviously, into those homes to see them. It was probably the very time that people needed to hear a song.
Oh, yeah.
Going through.
Wasn't that terrible? Wasn't that the worst decision anybody's ever made? Not to let loved ones be with their families. I mean, just unbelievable.
Bonkers, Betty bonkers.
Yeah.
Hard decisions being made in imperfect world, but yeah, awful. I didn't like the way we kept New Zealanders out of New Zealand, by the way. That was my main sort of stance on that. I felt that was tragic and we should have done everything we could to bring them back. But anyway, we're going slightly off piste. Did those people like John teach you anything?
Oh, John taught me to still be joyous, even when you're in a wheelchair, when you're in a home. When you're in a home, it's hard to be joyous in those places. I should clarify something, because the homes varied. Like when I did my show here, a group of New Zealand women came, which was so gorgeous, and we had a big chat afterwards. And one of them said to me, "Oh, Ellie, it was interesting watching your play, because my grandmother's in a home in New Zealand, and it's not like that at all. They're not like that in New Zealand, are they?" Well, I think that there are homes where people go who have got a lot of money, and the homes, they have their gin and tonics at 6:00 and all those sort of things. But I think they're more rest homes or retirement homes. I worked mainly, almost exclusively, in little homes, privately run, supported by councils, some of them the local councils, that were struggling for money, and a lot of the people there simply had nowhere else to go.
Oh, well, let me tell you now, Ellie, we definitely have them here. 100% we have them here. And there's a certain, obviously, a certain slither of the elderly who can afford a certain standard of care, and then there's every gradation beneath that. So we have a very similar situation here in NZ from what I've seen. I saw it with my mother.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I did go to there's a group of homes all over the country owned by some American big conglomerate, and I sang there a couple of times. And interesting, it sounds like it's not true, but it is true. When I went to those homes, I felt they enjoyed it less than the homes where the people had not much else. I was there, or any entertainer was there one highlight of the week. A lot of them didn't have families, so they didn't get to go out.
Yeah.
They would just sit in their armchairs day after day in front of the television. And so when whereas the homes with a lot of money, they had a lot more entertainment, and they would go out on coach outings and all that sort of stuff. So I love these homes, and I learned that through people like John, that he made the most of every day. He had a CD player, so we'd swap CDs, and he was just full of joy. And I learnt that you have to try and see the joy in everything until the day you pop your clogs.
Don't you? Yeah, that sounds a little bit like The Choice to me. Very famous book, but I'm interested. Did John have family coming and seeing him?
Well, he would say every time I went, I used to go to that home like every 3 weeks, and he would say, "My son's coming in today, Ellie. He's coming in. He's down in Worthing, but he's going to pop in." And the nurses said, "No, he never popped in. He never popped in." And John, the last time I went there, I remember he said, "Now, Ellie, I've got some money stashed away. Not many people know this, but I've got some money stashed away, and I'm planning to go on a cruise to New York, and I'm taking a couple of my favourites from here, and I want you to come."
Oh, that's just lovely.
I said, "Oh, that would be, that would be just the best thing I can imagine." Going on a cruise to New York with John in his wheelchair and all the nurses and me. Wouldn't that have been? Anyway,
and his gem of an entertainer who gave him that little wonderful spark moment, unlike his family by the sound of things, Ellie. That's a gorgeous story. Yeah, love it. And a sad story in the same breath, right? I've always wondered why rest homes, care homes, whatever you want to call them, filled with, I think, interesting elderly people with lots of stories and lots of time on their hands, why we can't actually harness them better. Why don't we build like a preschool in a rest care home? Because you've got so many avid readers wanting, and people wanting to read to a child. I mean, it would be just quite a magic way to lift the energy levels rather than a, 24/7 screen. Apart from when an entertainer like you comes in and gives them some joy and allows them to sing on, apart from the curmudgeonly sod who just has never liked music. I mean, gosh,
Yeah. Well, when they've done that, Paul, I've read here, they get little tiny kids to almost match up with a local care home. They do regular visits.
Right.
And the kids love it, and the old people love it
as well.
It's just wonderful. Yeah, back to your childhood at that point.
I'm going to flip you out of the UK now, and I'm going to take you to Kenya, because I read somewhere that you travelled to Kenya, and I'm interested to hear how, if at all, that country affected you. It affected me, but I want to hear your story.
Oh, well, I have a second cousin who has been a missionary there for many, many years. And she and her partner work with women who, I try and get this in order. Women in the slums and in the poorer parts outside, in the outskirts of Nairobi, they open their homes to the little kids, orphans mostly, to make a school. So Maddie and I went into the slums in Nairobi and saw these women who have pushed things aside, the few things they've got in their little shack, and create and put little got books and things for these kids to come into. And these women tirelessly work with these little orphan kids. My cousin raises money tirelessly to take these women every so often to like a hotel, and invites guests and speakers and gives these women a whole weekend of a holiday.
Amazing.
Right? And they meet other women who are doing the same thing. I hope I haven't confused you. I get all tongue-tied trying to explain it. But so anyway, we went to visit Carrie and her partner in Nairobi and stayed with them and went about, the city, doing things, going and visiting art communities. It just changed my life. I have never been in a place that was so crowded, so loud, so colourful, so dirty and clean at the same time. It was just phenomenal. The poverty there broke my heart. I've never seen anything like it. But then, of course, you then see another side of that. There are wealthy people there, of course. It was just phenomenal. The food, the buzz, the speed of life made me rethink the world, made me realize how tiny I am in this huge world, and how so many people are doing so many good things when you see the women helping. And it's always the women. That was what was fascinating to me too. In all these places we went with my cousin, there were no men in sight doing this kind of thing.
Right.
The men were just hanging around smoking and chatting and things like that.
Well,
take
the gloves off and tell me why you think that is. I mean, I've seen that the world over as well. But why is it always, seemingly anyway, the women that are actually charged and manifesting this and work and delivering in the communities that they're living in?
Paul, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could talk for the next few hours, and I could sort of come to some brilliant insight. But it's just like thank goodness my son-in-law is totally the opposite. He does all the cooking and he adores looking after Arlo. So I don't see it here so much. But, you go to these countries in Europe and the men are sitting around all day at the coffee bars, 100%. Smoking and chatting and playing dominoes or whatever, and the women are, making 3 meals a day. Do men just think that it is a woman's place on earth to do that?
Well, I think some men clearly do, and some men like your son-in-law clearly don't. I just can't imagine a more boring life than just sitting around drinking coffee and playing dominoes. I just don't understand it.
And talking about what, I wonder, endlessly. And then, of course, there are younger generations who are working, the guys are working to put food on the table. They're working their asses off.
Yeah.
So you can't sort of say all men.
No, of course not.
In those countries like that, and where I just saw it. Yeah, the school we went to, my cousin funds a school for orphans just outside of Nairobi. We went there, and there were no men; there were all women working there. So, but the school was for boys and girls, of course.
So you were affected by the visit, and obviously saw some things you hadn't seen before. I think also the amazing thing, my experience in Kenya was more towards the Masai Mara, and it was quite remote. But
I went there. Wasn't that incredible? I mean, that makes you think you've died and gone to heaven.
Just extraordinary,
doesn't it?
Oh, meeting Maasai warriors and their wives as well, and their children, and seeing where they live. And I think coming back to that point around the one that you made about John and the rest home and others, that that choice that people made, it's so strong, right? People make a choice that they can be happy and will be joyous, even though their lives might be shrinking. And I'm not saying for a minute the Maasai looked like their lives were shrinking, but by our standards, they had nothing. But actually, they had everything. They had an exterior life. They had a colourful life. They had food. They had risk. They had security. They had physicality. They obviously had laughter. And it was interesting for me to hear you, talk about the sort of what you saw and the poverty there. But there's also laughter in these communities, right?
So much laughter. So much laughter. I adored it. I went back to Kenya on my own the next time and spent a week on my own in the Masai Mara. And, my day was made. If I could see an elephant, my day was made. That's, all the other animals are fabulous, but elephants. Yeah. I'm taking my grandson. I'm going to get him out of shopping. I just want to say this. I'm taking my grandson out of the shops as soon as I can, and I'm going to take him to Kenya, and I'm going to take him amongst the elephants and animals.
That's so gorgeous. I totally agree. And then you can take him back to London, and you can take him to Harrods, and he can buy an elephant.
Yes. Oh my God.
Because you can buy anything. You can buy anything from Harrods.
Yeah. Apparently.
Hey, before I'm going to get on pretty soon to you coming back to New Zealand, which I'm very excited to hear you talk about. I'm just got one question for you. When you're out and about, or someone finds out that you're from New Zealand, if they ever find out you're from New Zealand, I'm interested to hear, is there any common perception that you hear about us, either as a people or as a country, or a misperception? Or does it just never come up? You've been there so long.
Oh, no, it comes up a lot. And the first thing is if you have like we've had, or let's say you need an electrician, for example, and he'll come to the door and say, oh, hi. And he'll go, oh, are you from Australia? Immediately. Are you from Australia? And I say, no, New Zealand. Oh, sorry. They always say, sorry. And I have to say, actually, I like Australians. That's fine, But it's really funny. It's like New Zealanders are loved in England. Really, people say, "Oh, you're from New Zealand? Oh, I want to go to New Zealand." And another thing I do at the moment. Oh, I've jumped to something else. But I work in the soup kitchen every week. Oh, I sound like Mother Teresa. I work in the soup kitchen, and 4 of the women who work there have been to New Zealand.
Get out of here.
And no, I'm not. And 2 of them lived in New Zealand for more than 2 years, and they love love New Zealand. In fact, we were only talking about it yesterday when I was there, and this German woman, and she said I could have stayed there forever. Forever. She said the people, and she said something really interesting. Funny you asked me this today. She said, I found the people really helpful in New Zealand. She said they would do anything to help you. But I'm not saying that they were extra friendly, but they were helpful. Wasn't that a funny thing to say? Because I said, I think New Zealanders are very friendly. And she said, yes, I don't mean they're not, but they're more helpful than friendly. It's a weird observation to me.
I don't know. That's an interesting one, Ellie. I can kind of sense that. I've got friends who've come in from overseas and they've gone, they can get that close enough to us, but it actually takes a wee while to get really close and to build build a friend network. So that's not the first time I've actually heard that expressed. But you're saying now they're back and you're feeding them in the soup kitchen. So did they leave New Zealand with nothing and they've just arrived back to London and now... we were very helpful and we robbed them blind and now they're on support.
No, they're cooking in the
they're cooking.
kitchen.
Oh, they're cooking.
Yeah,
Okay.
the people who can cook. I work there. I'm a cook and I'm a terrible cook. I just do what I'm told.
Nice.
But no, isn't that funny? But people here, it does come up a lot.
Yeah.
And people, I don't think I've ever, and I lived here all of the 70s too, don't forget. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything negative about New Zealand or New Zealanders.
Right, great. No. Oh, that's lovely to hear. That is lovely to hear.
It's lovely. I'm always very proud to say I'm from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of New Zealand, finally, after, 17 years since you were last on a New Zealand stage at least, audiences here have got a chance to see you back in NZ. You're coming here in November to perform your London sellout solo show, which you wrote, called Life on a Loop. And I want to hear about it. Tell me about Life on a Loop and what are we going to see? What can we expect?
Well, Life on a Loop is, I made the lead character, because I play lots of characters or quote lots of characters, is about a care worker. Funny that, isn't it? A woman who's worked in a care home for over 30 years, Grace, and she loves it. She loves so it's all from my stories that happened from singing in a care home. But I didn't make it an entertainer because I thought it was a bit restricted. I wanted someone who was more involved with the lives and the work in a care home. Yeah. So it's a 75-minute one-woman play. And it's hopefully funny, and it's also quite sad because you find out something about Grace, but I won't tell you what.
No, of course not.
And so it took me a long time to write it, with the help of I have a wonderful actor friend called Bruce Phillips, who was like my editor, and when I started writing it, and he helped me a lot. But it comes from my heart. This play, I wrote it purely from my heart, and it's gone very well. Doing it in London, I've had lots of wonderful feedback, mostly the sort of feedback, my mother was in a care home, and it's exactly how you described. It's exactly what happened to her. I recognize so much of it, and the sadness for families, of the sadness and the guilt of families who put their parents in a care home.
Yeah. I can relate. Is it also, two things. One, how long did it take? Because I'm not sure how long a long time is in writing. I would imagine a play is a huge task. What sort of time?
It took me off and on. I suppose it took me about 4 months to write. Yeah. And then I did it in London a year ago, and I felt some of it didn't work. So it's taken me all year to do the rewrites. Not, as I say, every day, but it's taken me hours and hours and hours, many, many hours to rewrite it. Yeah. And I'm happy with it now. It's a lot tighter and, I'm really happy with it.
So it's what we call a one-hander, isn't it? It's you. Is that right?
A solo show.
A solo show.
Yeah.
Do you have a director? I'm interested. Do you have a director?
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is what happened when I met a wonderful, I'm going to say young man because he's only like 40 years old, a wonderful young man living in London who's from Auckland called Jesse Peach. Wonderful name, isn't it? Jesse Peach. And he runs the Peach Theatre Company. He's directed about half a dozen shows in Auckland.
Yeah.
And he now works for ITN News in London. And I got to meet him through some friends. And we were chatting about theatre. And I said, I'm writing this play. And he said, I'd love to read it. So he read it and he rang me pretty well immediately and said, I'd love to direct you in it. Nice. Now, I never wrote it for me. I never had me in mind. I was writing it hoping someone in New Zealand would do it. Some wonderful actress in New Zealand would do it. Anyway, he did talk me into it the same way as he's talked me into coming home. And so we had to really scrimp with our production. We had no money, no backing. So we rehearsed in not an old people's home, as it's called the senior, like a club for senior citizens run by the local council. They gave us a room to rehearse in for nothing, which was very challenging sometimes because outside the door they'd be doing their line dancing or something, and I was trying to get into the mind of old people living in a care home. And where sometimes we got there, a couple of days we got there, that's right, and there were these two people who went regularly to this little senior citizens centre, it was, and this man and this woman, and they would be sitting there just in the room where we were going to rehearse, just sitting, staring at the wall, staring at nothing. And Jessie would say, oh, hi, how are you today? Oh, look, Ellie and I, we've booked this room. We're going to start rehearsing in a few minutes. Do you mind going into the... Would you mind leaving? No. No. They just sat there, and we'd have to go and get the woman who ran the place to get them out. This was their room, and they were not going to move. So, anyway,
no is a sentence, Ellie. No is a sentence.
No, just a sentence. That was it. So it was really cute. But anyway, so Jesse has directed it, and he has been beyond wonderful. I mean, he's the kindest young man you'll ever meet, and cares so much about my play. He cares so much about it. And so he's directed it, and for my son-in-law's done the sound for it, which is fabulous.
Nice.
Because Jesse had this kind of vision of how the play should go, and he had this sound in his head. And my son-in-law, who does sound for films, he's done this like backing music for it.
Yeah.
And when we come to Auckland, we have John Parker, the wonderful John Parker, who's the ceramicist, fabulous sculptor. He's doing the set.
How wonderful is that?
So we're really excited because in London we really had no set. We had to do it pretty well.
Wow.
A minimalist production. But in New Zealand we're going to have a set.
So where and when and how do people get tickets?
Oh, this is good, Paul. Thanks. This is going to be at Q Theatre, which I've never seen. It's been built since I left.
Yep.
Q Theatre in Auckland.
Yep.
They've got a fabulous website with all the stuff that they're doing there.
Yep. qtheatre.co.nz, I think. Would it be? I think it is.
I think it might be. Is it? You would know better than me. Maybe.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably.
qtheatre.co.nz, I think we'll find you there. And when do you open?
We open on the Tuesday, the 11th of November.
Yep.
We're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 on Saturday. There's a matinee on Saturday, and there's a matinee on Sunday.
Brilliant.
So for all, for coach parties to come, and we're hoping all sorts of people come.
Oh, look, you're hitting such a rich vein here, and probably globally, actually, Ellie, with aging populations happening the planet over, and this and the emotions that everybody will go through at some point when they're faced with what do they do with their mum or their dad or an uncle or an auntie. So, 11th to the 16th of November, Q Theatre, all right, and people can go to qtheatre.co.nz to buy tickets to see you on stage. Ellie, at the start of this chat, I talked about you performing in Piaf, remember, where you and I you and I met for the
we
first
met
time.
across a crowded theatre,
And I made such an impression on you, and you were playing that woman. You were playing this woman who never apologised for living a life on her terms, right? The French, the non je ne regrette rien, no, I regret nothing, really says it all. And I just wanted to tell you that I will always think of you, and always do think of you when I hear that song and that sentiment that goes with it. And to close this conversation around living life on your terms and regretting nothing, I'm interested to hear what you would say to a young Kiwi creative who may be listening to this podcast, perhaps another 9-year-old who's just told her mum or dad, or is just about to tell them that they shouldn't bother planning her 21st, as she will be in London. What would you say to her?
Oh, I will say just go for it. Do that. Because if you don't have a dream, what's life about? You've got to have something to live for and dream about. If it changes, it doesn't matter a jot, does it? But just have that dream, go for it, and oh my gosh, you'll meet so many wonderful people and you'll have a wonderful life along the way to that dream.
Ellie, it's been so lovely talking to you.
You too.
I just can't wait to see you in Auckland next month. We're really looking forward to it. As you know, we're obviously coming up with a few friends. And,
it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. And I need to say a huge thank you also to our audience for joining us. I'm on the hunt for more Kiwi fleas, so please get in touch if you have some suggestions as to who you think I should talk to. Do that whole subscription thing, reviewing thing. Join me in a fortnight for our next episode. Ellie Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
So nice to see you. And, well, time for me and time for us to flee.